We're live. Strange. Okay. Okay, hello. Microphone check 1 2. How's my audio? So my name is Chris Legaspi, and today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2020. And today we're going to talk about a painting exercise where we use only one color. It's called a monochrome painting. And we're going to do this exercise in Photoshop, but it also applies to other digital painting apps like Procreate and Sketchbook, heavy poly. And well, apparently my website's not working. So, and today we're going to use Photoshop, and I have my brushes and skin color palettes available on my website at drawwithchris.com/subscribe. Strangely, it doesn't seem to be loading at the moment. drawwithchris.com/subscribe, so you can download the brush pack, skin color palettes, and have other resources as well. You can get a preview copy of my life drawing book, as well as other videos and lessons that I only release to subscribers, so you definitely would enjoy that. All right, so let's get started here. So today, let's talk about monochrome painting. Now, if it's the first time joining me, comment below. Let me know where are you located and where you are watching from and what time is it for you. I'm currently in Thailand at the moment. I'm an American, but I live in Thailand right now. It's 9 o'clock for me on Wednesday evening. And who am I? So if you're just watching, either live or on replay, I've been a professional artist for many years now, over 20 years, really, if I think about it. And the bulk of my career, or at least the first part of my career, was working in video games. So I did concept art and illustration. So I spent a lot of time working on the computer in Photoshop. And then later in life, I took some time off of entertainment work to pursue fine art. So I started oil painting and things and started really learning about the craft of painting. And I started learning from some of the best artists in the world, in my opinion, the best artists I could find. You know, at the time I was living in California, the west coast of the U.S. And the American West Coast is very famous for landscape painters. There's a small subset of painters called the California Impressionists. They're basically really into landscape painting, color, and there's a lot of cross referencing or cross pollination between the outdoor landscape painting, the colorful impressionistic style outdoor landscape painting, and the entertainment work that you find in Hollywood and the Los Angeles area. That's where I used to live. So that's the school I come from, California Impressionism. Very colorful. The same guys that do, that are known for the colorful California landscape fine art, like Edgar Payne is probably the most famous example I can think of. A lot of these guys taught at the same schools and taught many of the same teachers at these top art schools like Art Center in Los Angeles, who then taught this knowledge to all the background painters and the folks who work on the animation and the film industry in Hollywood. So um, there's a big emphasis on on color in California because the weather is nice. Really, that's one of the reasons, the main reason why the weather in California is quite special compared to most of the U.S. Um, it would be similar climate to Mediterranean region of Europe, southern Spain. It's not humid and warm year round, so you can go outside and spend many hours outside year round and paint. So that's why, because of that, the artists really favor colorful work. So that's where I come from, and my lineage starts with guys like mainly Steve Houston, and then later Nathan Fowkes and Jiao Ming Wu, who's a Chinese realist, but he lives and works in Berkeley, which is in Northern California, and he's also known for his color figurative work. So this is the tradition that I come from, and what's unique about me is that I was able to, kind of translate this knowledge of color and outdoor painting into the entertainment side of thing, into my Photoshop work, working as a concept artist, for almost a decade in the 2000s, from 2000 up to 2012. And so that's what we're going to basically talk about today, is how we can make our digital painting and our illustrations in whatever, in Photoshop, whatever medium you like, just make our color better. And yesterday I talked about the first step to making your color better is to understand that the main proponent of color is value. And today we're going to talk about some of the other properties of color, which is hue and saturation. So let's begin with the definitions. So first, color. This lesson is going to be on the monochrome painting exercise. It's an exercise where you just take one color and you can make a fairly full realized color image or color painting using the most limited palette of all, which is just one color. So I'm going to show you how we can start to do that. We can start to use color, and the first step is to begin with just one color, because if you can't control one color, you can't possibly control the whole color wheel, the rainbow, so to speak. So that's the purpose of learning monochrome. This is really for those who are transitioning from drawing to painting, or maybe you've already been doing some color work, but you just don't quite understand color. You're like, you don't get consistent results. You can do it, but you're not quite sure why it works or how to make your color better. So that's what this exercise is for. And I'm going to go quickly through this, and then we're going to break for questions periodically. So let me check the chat window here. Where is the chat window? Nope, that's not it. Ah, here it is. Oh, that is so strange. The website is not working. Okay, so if you just joined me live, thank you for joining me. I'm going to break for questions in a moment. So let's start with some definitions. So first, we have to understand the properties of color. If this is your first time, obviously we have to just define the terms, because I'm going to use these few terms over and over and over again. So 3 properties of color are, well, it's actually 4, 3.5. The first is so the properties of color are hue, saturation, brightness, and temperature. And I believe I have a video on my YouTube channel called The Properties of Color. I mean, you can find them in most color books. Hue, saturation, and brightness, or value. So yesterday we talked about value is how light or how dark something is. And let me make a little gradient bar here. A lot of times when I'm doing my personal work, I like to set up value key like this, tonal key, black and white key. Okay. So brightness refers to how light or how dark a color is. So when we talk about how to adjust the brightness, because obviously as we render and model form and try to distinct shapes, foreground to background, we're going to need to shift the brightness, the value of our colors. So that's probably the most important lesson for today. So if you watch till the end, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that and how the my mentors and the masters that I studied with, how they taught me. And the second property of color is saturation. That's basically how rich a color is. So if we look at this color wheel, the outer edge of a color wheel has what we call pure saturation. So it's the highest, the most rich, the most color. In tube paint, traditional paint, it's the most pigment. When you squeeze, you buy a tube of paint, you squeeze it on your palette. That's what we call full saturation. So it has the most amount of pigment. In this case, the most color. In Photoshop, it's the S slider. And that's a pro tip too. If you want to start using the color wheel plugin, if you have sliders like me, you want more control, use HSB. So that's a pro tip right there. If you're not already, HSB sliders, because this is how painters think. This is how we shift colors, is with hue, saturation, brightness with the color properties. So brightness we talked about earlier. Now the next property is temperature. So this is technically not one of the core properties. This is something that was taught to me by one of my biggest painting mentors and influences, Nathan Fowkes. He's a former DreamWorks artist, animation background painter. So comment below if you're a fan of Nathan Fowkes. He's just he's a legend in my mind. And I was fortunate enough, I was in his last group of classes. He actually retired from teaching in person. And I was very fortunate to be in the last group before he retired. So I got to spend some time with him in person, and it's such a joy to be around someone who's an expert in their field. And Nathan was very big on temperature. And what is temperature? Temperature is also known as warm and cool. And what does that mean? Well, the warm colors on this color wheel, I'm sure things. It's like, even if you're not familiar with color, things that are orangey, reddish, yellow, they feel warmer. Fire is like that. Human skin is orangey. So things that feel warm, feel hot, the yellows to the reds, we call these the warm colors. And then the cool colors are uh, colors associated with things like water, nighttime, shadow, absence of light, ice, um, the blue sky, the cool sky. So these would be the blues, a range of from greens. Green is debatable. So is violet. Green has green is a whole other conversation. Is a very unique color. But from blue green to blue violet, I would say these are what we call the cool colors. So that's temperature. And one way to think about it, really the most simplest way to think about it is when someone says temperature, someone says warm, say, my color is warm, or make it more warm or less warm. Basically what they're saying is add yellow, orange, or red somewhere. Put some yellow, orange, and red in there. And if they say cool, add blue. Blue is the coolest color. Orange and the reds, orange reds here, yellow, orange. These are the hottest colors. And so that's a quick definition of the terms. Now today what we're going to do is we're going to transition from doing just black and white drawing, which is kind of what we did yesterday. We kind of looked at the shapes of paintings, the color shapes, and kind of trained our eye to see the values. So that's the first thing you want to train yourself into doing, which is kind of briefly what that exercise was about yesterday. And you can watch that stream archived on this YouTube channel. Is that the first step to learning how to paint or to become a better painter is to look at color and determine its value, one of its core elements, core property of color is value, especially for us who work in entertainment or in illustration, and also the fine artists, the fine artists who want realistic work, or representational is the fancy word for it. We need to control value, because value gives us that first initial read, that first initial emotional response comes from lightness and darkness. And the second emotional response comes from the hue, also known as the chroma, what color it is, right? So that's why yesterday value was important. So today we're going to use one color, and then we're going to make a full palette adjusting the value of one color, and we're going to do it in a way that feels natural and feels workable and can produce you some very good results, because when you're transitioning from drawing, you want to start from drawing to painting. First, you want to train your eye to see the properties of color, the most important properties, value, and then you want to start to learn how to mix a color palette with one color. Learn how to take one color and make a natural palette of that one color, monochrome it's called, and use and adjust its value so that it still feels natural and consistent and feels harmonious and obeys whatever laws or whatever context you have set up in your image in your painting. So that's the plan for today. And let me break. If anybody has any questions here, I'm going to take a quick break. Okay. Hello, everyone, for joining me. How is my audio? Hope it's okay. Thank you, Dutch, there. I think if this sounds okay, let me know. Otherwise, I appreciate you joining us. So if you just joined us, if you're watching live on replay, we're going to actually start the monochrome painting exercise now. You want to review for the introduction and the properties of color. So the subject we're going to use today is movie screen captures, film studies, also known as screencaps, movie captures. And the reason why I like this exercise is for two reasons. One is many movies have and I'm going to give you a nice short list and some resources as well that have really established, clear color palettes, specifically monochrome in this case. And two, the people who make these movies, the cinematographer, and the photographer, director of photography, even the director of the story, the concept artists, the illustrators, the costume designers, the people who make these movies are expert artists. And they've already done the work for you, picking out a palette. And, I forgot to mention the color graders, the people who actually do. Nowadays, we have software, video editing software that does color grading. So nowadays, the color graders, the video editors, also are color experts, or they take cues from the color experts on these films. So what that does is it allows it. It's just like when we study paintings, we kind of learn. We're in a way studying directly from an expert by copying their paintings. Here we're gonna copy the work of cinematographers, color stylists, and professional color graders who have expertise in color. So that's why I like film studies. Basically someone's already done the work for you, so it's your job to just interpret, and that's how we can begin the process. Okay, so what we're going to do, let's start here. Now first, when you set out to do this exercise, let's talk about what to look for. So here I have a folder. Last night I dug through some of my collection of screen captures and some movies I have in my collection that have excellent color design. So the thing that you want to look for is obviously a monochrome palette. So as you can see, you can just quickly scroll through these. Quickly scroll through these, you can see that these frames, these screen caps, these movie images generally have one dominant color. So it's monochrome, monochrome blue, monochrome oranges, blues, oranges, blues, red, green, blues. This one is not monochrome, so we're not going to use that. Red, green, pastel green. So that's what you want to look for. And typically they're very obvious. So I always say when you're starting to learn something, start with something that's very obvious and easy to recognize. So I chose these because they're clearly monochrome, only one color. So that's step one. And then step two, you want to pick ones that have ideally, if you're going to copy, there's also the limitation of drawing, because I also chose these because they have very simple subject. Now, me personally, I like drawing figures and faces. Maybe if you're watching this and you're more of an environment artist, landscape painter, concept artist, and you like environments, architecture, buildings, or vehicles, then definitely choose that. This is my favorite thing to draw. So that would be helpful too. Choose subjects and frames that have subjects that you like to draw and are easy to draw. So for example, this is a great one to start with. This is from the movie called Baraka. So comment below if you've seen this documentary. It's a wonderful documentary. It has just outstanding visuals and excellent color. The whole movie could be a painting. They say every frame a painting. It's very true for Baraka. This one is just excellent to study, and it's quite a simple drawing. Obviously, if you want to do a full detail rendering of the architecture, that's not easy. But in general, the shapes are much easier to draw than, let's say, a figure, for example. A figure, or a woman's face. So that's number one. And then the second thing you want to look for, the third thing is, if you're just starting out, I would recommend starting with the primaries first. And specifically, I would start with blue. This is from Mad Max. This is a digitally color graded. So this is unnatural color graded. This is a Terminator. So I believe this is colored light, but also probably has some digital grading. So this is more of a natural color. Where was I? Start with a blue frames, and start with earth tone. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate red, but I would start with an earth tone. Earth tone is brown, so yellowy, orangey, red, brown. Anything in that area, it feels earthy, like dirt, basically. Earth tone is brown. So this is a great example. This is like a orangey brown. This is also from Baraka. Orangey brown, so excellent. It's mostly monochrome. There's some grays, cool grays in the shadow, some yellows, and some greens, obviously. But this is mostly dominantly brown. Here's another good example. This is like a yellowy brown, but I would say this would be a good. This is from Pan's Labyrinth. Anything by Guillermo del Toro he's an excellent color stylist. So comment below if you have seen Pan's Labyrinth. Actually, I saw it a long time ago, but most of the details slipped my memory. But it's got excellent color styling. Pan's Labyrinth. I'm a big fan of Guillermo del Toro. Hellboy 2 is another one. Mad Max. I'm sure everyone watching this has seen Mad Max. Maybe you've seen it multiple times. If you haven't, you should definitely watch it. It's you may not like action movies, but the color styling is fantastic. The whole movie is like 80% of it is orange. It's got that Hollywood orange blue color scheme that most people they're getting a little tired of nowadays, but has excellent color grading. So earth tone and blue. And then as you get more comfortable, then I would move into reds and greens. And then obviously the next one is a violet. So start with earth tone and start with the blue. So that's tip 1. And the last tip number 5 is kind of get to know where your I call it tolerance for saturation. Okay, that's not a good example. Let's see, one more. Oh, here's a good example. Tolerance for saturation. What is your tolerance? In a lot of ways, and this comes from my, I used to teach digital painting and character design at one of the top schools in the nation, Nomon School. It's in Hollywood. It's an entertainment art school. And, I have I've taught many students. And one thing I've seen all students who are starting digital painting or color in general is that each student has a different level of saturation that they can tolerate. Meaning some students are just not comfortable with something that's pure, rich, and saturated, like maybe this bottom image right here. This is from the movie Terminal. So I would say if you're just starting out, or if you have a low tolerance for color, choose something muted or desaturated or more gray. So that, like, obviously these are closer to the greens. This one right here is also from Hellboy 2, Mike Mignola comic and Guillermo del Toro directed. So this it's very desaturated. It's green, but it's gray green. It's a gray green, so desaturated. So I would choose something that's desaturated if you're just starting out and if you have low tolerance for saturation. And then as you progress, you maybe add a little bit more saturation and use or go into the pastels. Pastels are basically colors plus white, so they feel a little muted. They feel kind of washed out and creamy. They're creamy. They basically add white to a color. So this image is from, what is this movie? House of Flying Daggers? The House of Flying Daggers? Comment below if you have seen this movie. I believe it's called House of Flying Daggers. Yes, the House of Flying Daggers. It's has excellent color styling, which is why I love this movie to study. And then, as you advance and become more comfortable with color, then you can choose really saturated subjects to study. And this is again from Terminal. This movie Terminal. I just saw it for the first time. And comment below if you've seen Terminal. 2014, I believe, 2016. My God, it has very exaggerated color styling. Terminal. So start with, if you're new and you're not comfortable with rich saturated colors, start with more muted and gray and then work your way up. So beginner, intermediate, and more advanced. All right, so that's the pro tip right there. Okay, so that's what you want to look for, because I hope that you do try this exercise yourself. And for those of you who want to try this for yourself, I'm gonna post the screen caps that I use here in the resources area of my website, if I can get it to work. Where's my website? Oops, that's not it. Okay, here we go. Is my website working now? Shoot. Well, anyway, I'm going to drop the URL here. drawwithchris.com/subscribe. And there you can enter your email and you can download the color palettes, skin color palettes that I use, my Photoshop brushes, and also I'm going to post some resources in that area. There's a page that has you can get a password. I'll send you the password by email. Okay, well, website's not working again. That's no problem. You don't need that. All right, so let's get started here. Okay, thank you. I just saw your comment there. So I'm going to start with a red. This is the movie Hero. And Hero. Comment below if you haven't seen Hero. Man, it's arguably in the top 10 of the best color-styled movies. It's just very obvious use of color. Very obvious use as well. It's a wonderful movie. And let me shrink this down a bit here. What do? We're going to make a palette. So the first thing you want to do when you look at a film you want to study, actually I should have this open. Yeah, there you go. So let's start with the red, and obviously I could color pick, but I'm not going to. I'll show you how. I'm going to make a palette. So this is the red that I picked out. Now, if we look at the numerical value, the colors, typically, this is what I call the base color or your home color. In this image, it's the richest, most saturated red in it, which is his shirt. So right now, the red I have is pretty close. I could use my slider, HueSat slider here. That feels pretty close. Right now, I'm comparing this patch of red, which is surrounded by green, to this patch of red, which is surrounded by red. So it's impossible to do that, because what makes color unique is that color is dependent on the colors around it. So that makes it very difficult to, that's one thing you got to practice. So I have a red. Now, one thing you'll notice that the red, when it's at full saturation, really high saturation, it tends to be in the midtone, meaning around 50%. So 50 to 60%, which is about here on this value bar here. Now, as you go brighter, you want to adjust the value. In Photoshop, it's the brightness. But you also have to be mindful of the other colors in the other two sliders, the H and the S and the B, the hue and the saturation. Because obviously, if I just do this, just turn up the brightness, right, which I could, and don't touch everything else, we're not going to get anywhere. So according to the computer, this is 100% brightness, but it's not even close right now. The reason why this doesn't work is because, well, it's that's not how color works in real life. Because in real life, in order to get a brighter version of this red, we're going to need to add white. And what white does is it neutralizes the saturation. So right away, you know that to get really bright, so for example, if you compare this patch, right, to this patch, even compare it to this patch, right, and this patch of red, you see that different. This is darker, a little brighter, and this is the brightest. This is the brightest red, which is like a really bright pink. You can see it's not even close to what we have here. So what we want to do is, as we go brighter, we also want to remember from yesterday, we also want to drop the saturation. Because in nature, as colors get brightened, as a color gets brighter, you tend to, the brightness of the light washes out the color, unless you're talking about a colored light, which in that case, colored lights they typically have gels on them. They don't get to as bright as a nice bright white light or the sun. Sun will be the brightest natural light, obviously. And as colors go darker, right, as we go from here to here, obviously we don't just want to do that. We don't just want to drop our slider either, because as colors go darker, they still have saturation. But what happens is, as you go really, really dark, the level of saturation matters less to your eye. So in other words, we also want to drop the saturation as we go darker, right? So this is the mid-tone, the brightest bright, which is here, the darkest black, which is here. Actually, his hair is also very dark. So this is how we mix a palette. Now, this is bad. This is good, but there's one more thing we have to do. So this is the game changer right here. This is what I learned from Steve Houston when I first started getting serious about painting. He was the first person to kind of open my eyes to this idea, is that not only do you want to go, as you go brighter, not only do you want to drop your saturation as you go brighter, but you also have to change the temperature. In other case, the hue, right? You either have to, and temperature is what? More red, more yellow, more orange, or more blue. So you have to either add a little bit more, in this case, more orange, yellow, or red, or more blue. Now, how do you know which one? It depends on two things. One is the temperature of your light. So lights generally come in two flavors. The lights in your house, the lights you use to light your models, the lights they use to light movies. They generally come in two flavors. They're either kind of warm, yellowy, orange, or they're cool, neutral. Cool lights, or the most neutral light is somewhere like not too warm, not too bright. But what that does is it kind of shifts, even though it's neutral right in the middle. There's really no such thing as neutral in the natural world. They tend to shift more towards blue. So what that means is your light should add a little bit more warmth to it, yellow, orange, and red as you go brighter, or more blue as you go cooler. So that depends on the light you're using. In this case, so we look at our scene here, and one way to tell is you look at the color of the highlight. So if you look at his highlight, it's actually, and this may be color graded. See the highlight there? I see a little bit of yellow. It's not, you guys see that? A little bit of pink. I think what it is, it's probably, it looks like natural light. It may be natural light from the window, or a strong neutral light. What it probably is a neutral light, but they add color grading to make the light shift towards warm. But anyway, in this scene, light is warmer. So we already have red. Since the light, in this case, we want to make it warmer, we want to move it towards, in this case, orange and yellow. So we got to move our light towards this way. So as we go brighter, let's say we start here on the color wheel, right? Our color is here. As we go brighter, we want to go less saturated and also towards yellow. And you see that? So our light will be right there. Less saturated, so go towards the center of the color wheel, and then either towards the yellow or towards the blues and the violets. In this case, I'm going to go here. So what that means is, right now I didn't move my hue slider at all. So in this case, I'm just going to move it a little bit, maybe 5%. or more. Let's try 15. Let's try 10%. It's degrees in and you see the difference? That looks so nice. And what will really happen is when you start to mix colors, it'll look really nice. And here, same thing here. As you go darker, typically in the real world, as you go darker, you have to add black. And black is most likely will shift it towards blues. Most blacks are kind of greeny, bluey black. There's no such thing as a pure neutral black. Most blacks are cool. I use ivory black. Ivory black is green, actually. It's a very, very desaturated green black. So that means we have to move our color scheme. In this case, I'm going to move it in the opposite direction towards the violet. And it's very subtle. Right now, probably on screen, you can't really appreciate it fully, but once you start using it and they start to mix together, you'll see the difference. So that's generally how we want to approach our color palette. Obviously, we're going to need the whole range, but we'll go through that as we do the study here. So that's really important. That's the one thing. I believe there's a video on there's a video on my YouTube channel called "The Wrong Way to Mix Colors," and it's exactly this. So if you want to watch it more detailed, it's in that video. Excuse me. And that video was taken from my color course. I have a color course called The Laws of Color, which is basically teaches this in much greater detail. So I'm just going to draw here. All right, what do we have here? Okay, now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to match the shapes of the drawing. I know it's a figure, but I don't want to draw any detail. I'm just thinking of big basic shapes right now. And when you're doing this at home, same thing. Don't get too caught up in the details. Just like me already, I'm trying to. God, I just warned you not to. Okay. These don't matter too much right now. I just need a rough sketch of what's going on. Just a couple objects. They're not really that important. Okay, so I just want to come close. I know it's not perfect. So let's start to analyze before we begin. So I got my drawing. I'm ready to start to study the color. The first thing you want to look at is you want to ask yourself a series of questions. The first question is, what is the darkest thing? Question number 1, what's darkest? Number 2, what is the brightest color? What is the darkest? What is the brightest? And number 3 is, what is the most saturated thing? In this case, what is the darkest thing? It would be his hair right here. Oops. Darkest thing is his hair. What is the brightest thing? It's this. And what is the most saturated? Well, we already talked about that. It's his outfit. So just as kind of gives me a roadmap, because you want to give yourself some idea, because this can get quite complex. So those are the 3 things I look for. So now, let me get a little more detail in his face. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in a nice background tone. I think that's a good starting point there. And I'm just going to fill it with a color. Now, the background has 3 different shades or values of this red. It has the slightly darker version, this middle tone, and this slightly darker mid-tone. So this half tone. It's actually more of a shadow tone, a dark. This is very dark, half tone, middle value, this wall here, and then the brightness of these 2 windows cut out. So let's just grab this thing. This is the biggest field of color. Is this oops. This middle value of red. So I'm going to go a little bit brighter. And this one, remember, as we move the brightness, we got to go from either this way towards blue or towards yellow. In this case, we're moving our brighter colors towards the yellow. I think that's a good place to start. And we also want to make it a little bit less saturated. So this is and I'm going to save this color. So there you go. Now let's drop in him. The figure, in this case, I'm going to use a mask. It's not going to be a really tight figure drawing per se. And you could use a brush as well. And already, all right. So I know he has some nuances, other variations within him, but I just kind of want to block block in what I have. The most saturated thing. Next is the darkest and the lightest thing. So the darkest thing, I'm actually going to do something interesting here. I'm going to make a layer. This background is architecture. I'm going to now that's my brightest value right here. I'm not going to color pick it. So if you're doing this exercise at home, don't color pick. I just need to drop that shape. What I'm going to do is, and when I look at this brightness, that feels really bright. So I'm going to go to, that's my brightest thing. So I'm going to go to like 95. Let's go to 90. It's not pure white by any means. Saturation, remember, we have to drop the saturation way down. And we have to change the hue as well. So let me go to 15. A little bit more towards yellow. All right, I'm happy with that. Actually, that looks really nice. All right, now my darkest shape is his hair, these background objects right here. Let's start with his hair. I'm gonna go darker, so maybe his hair is really dark. Drop the opacity a little bit, saturation, and then move the color slider towards blue-violet. Because lights are going one way. Typically your darks should go the opposite direction of your color. The opposite direction on the color wheel. If your lights are yellow, your darks should shift towards violet, in that case, the complement of the color of your light. All right, and then let me address, so that's his hair, and then maybe this little nugget back here behind him. So I'm just going to drop that in. Now I can't really tell if these will work until I put them on the canvas. So let's do that now. So I'm going to take my layer here, just the background, clean background shape. I'm going to use a marquee. You can use a brush. Because it's architecture, I'm going to use a marquee shape. I know this should be brighter, but darker, but I'm going to just put that there for now. And then let's drop in the darkest thing. Let's see. Just kind of blocking in roughly my colors. Oh, I forgot to clip it. Clipping mask. Okay, so as you can see, this feels way more saturated than that. But before I make a judgment, I'm going to keep going because I need kind of all the colors there to make the right decision. So first I'm going to just keep that there. Keep it on a separate layer. Where's the figure? Where the heck's the figure? What layer is the figure on? Oh, I didn't put it on its own layer. That's not good. Well, that's not good. It doesn't matter. Oh, what is this? What was that? So I'm going to take the figure. This time I'm going to use a brush. Don't have to be super accurate, but accurate enough. So this is the dark version of that color. And right now his skin, I think I need to address his skin color before I can move on. So now I'm just looking at this. This feels too saturated. It feels too blue. So I need to drop the saturation and bring it back towards orange, actually. Let's see. At least for now, against this background here. Again, I'm looking at this, comparing it, and comparing mine. All my colors aren't in place yet. So let me drop in a tone for his skin. There's something not right about the skin. Let's try this background color. Okay, this works pretty good, actually. It's the same background color, so that means my background color needs some work. That's a little better. His skin and shadow. Let's see, I'm going to take this color, make it darker. Now I got to change saturation as it goes darker. Does it get more saturated? Actually, let's see, and then bring it towards blue. Let's see what that looks like. Okay, so that's too blue. It's too blue. It needs, and it's too gray. You guys see that? You see how the color in his face is actually more warm, has more orange, and it's darker. So I'm going to make it darker, more saturated, and bring it back towards orange. Okay, so that feels a little closer. Okay, so now I have this color. I'm going to put that on my palette. Value-wise, it's in the dark range. All right, let's keep moving forward here. What I'd like to do now is address the, turn this drawing. Turn this drawing down. Because I need to address this background white. It's way too bright. It's distracting right now. So what I'm going to do is, what's going on here? What I'm going to do is draw the window things. Because they're quite distracting right now. It's just way too bright. It looks even brighter. You see how bright it looks when I add these window things? These little window cutout shapes. Look at how bright that is. That is we're not even close, right? We're way too bright. So I underestimated that, which that means is I got to turn this way down and bring in some saturation. So it's starting to get better there. Okay, and the whole reason I did that is for two reasons. One, I'm going to put this in there first. It's brighter, so it has to be, it's getting darker, so it's more saturated. And I'm going to shift it towards violet. Okay, so that's not even close either. So in this case, yeah, what's happening here is this is a color graded image. So it's not quite obeying the laws of nature. Typically, as you go, what's happening is the shadows are also warm. The lights are warm and the shadows are warm, which is not right. That tells me this is artificial color, which it is. It's a movie. So I'm trying to match this looking at this. So that's totally wrong. I need this. I need to make a clipping mask and address this color. So it's darker. Okay, so that's pretty close. All right, now we're getting somewhere. You see what happened there? So now I can judge this better. So now this looks okay. I'm going to drop that. So now I need this little area of red here. I'm just going to start with this one. It's way too red. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, happy with that. Now that little patch of red here. Let's start with this. Does this look right? Okay, it's pretty close. That one needs some saturation. And a little bit of brightness. So you see how this feels a little more yellowy than this, the white that we have. So where is that? It's here. So I totally got to adjust that. I basically got to shift it towards yellow. Got to make it a little bit darker too, actually. Okay, so that's a lot closer. And then I'm just going to take a slightly darker version of that and do one more pass, because this little nugget is kind of bothering me. I kind of need it to work before I move on to the... What the heck is going on? Okay. Okay, so now we're good. Now, now I can look at this and evaluate more clearly this section and him. So now I'm comparing the light in his skin to the lights I have. Let's see. And we can actually put these on our palette now. Let's start to add these to my color palette. This is an 83, so it's right here. So my brightest bright is way off. There it is. It's closer to that. Here's a nice little nugget of bright color right there. This is 60, so it's right about here. So you see how I always arrange my palette based on value. This is as I'm more of a what's called a tonalist painter, indoor painter, and we work mostly in value. So I have a nice set of midtones, saturated midtones. I have some nice lights and some nice darks. So I feel pretty good about my palette. Let me address before, because right now I want to do his face. Let me do his face, but I need to address the background. The background has a gradation in it. So this, where is this nugget? Is it that? Nope. Is it that? Nope. It's this thing. Okay. Lost my layers there. So there's a gradation. You see how it's a little bit darker here and brighter here? So let's address that gradation first. So let's take this, and I'm going to put this on a layer and make a slightly darker version of it. So I just kind of use my color sliders, and this color is way off. It's close in the mid-range. It's close right there. So it's actually pretty close, right? That feeling is pretty close. So I'm going to leave that there. Let me address this patch of brightness right next to him here. And let me try some of the colors that I might already have. Okay, so that's too bright. But let's see what that looks like. No, I don't want to use that as a base. I'm going to use this as a base. Brighten it up a little bit. Drop the saturation as you go brighter. And then move it towards the color of the light. In this case is yellow. Okay, so that feels pretty good, right? It's still too... It's too yellow. It's too bright. So darker, more saturated, and more red. There you go. It's too red. There you go. And I could use a different brush to get some of that texture. Let's see. Here we go. It's my nice rake. This is my one of my all-purpose brush. I really like this. I spent I spent a few days making this brush kit. Still quite not happy with Photoshop brushes. Soon I'll be using Procreate more. I was in talks with, before this COVID thing, I was supposed to go to New Masters Academy. I was supposed to fly to New Masters Academy in California, in Huntington Beach, their headquarters, and record some Procreate. So I was in the process of making Procreate content for New Masters, but trip got canceled. But anyway, I will be moving towards Procreate, which can imitate Painterly brushes much better. So I'm sure many of you watching are Procreate users. You already know that. Okay, so this last nugget is this side of the wall, and I got to get that side of the wall. So I'm going to start with this color I have. Oh, that's not right. We'll start with the base color of the wall, and then just kind of okay, it's close. You see that? It's close. It has its own gradation, but it's pretty close. Let me add a subtle gradation to that. Okay, it's pretty close. pretty close to it. And I know I'm like taking a lot of time on these walls and zero time on the character. It probably makes no sense if you're watching this. But I need the colors around him before he's the most important color I have to get right. But these colors, his colors, for me to properly to match the color of the of my subject, I have to get the colors around him, because all the colors around him affect my judgment. So that's the short answer. That's a much more advanced topic. That'll take some practice to get used to. Okay. Oops. I think it could go a little darker. Yeah, there you go. This side of the wall still needs to go darker. So let me just address that real quick. Let me use my rake. Get some of that wall texture. And I'm going to make it a little bit darker, a little bit less saturated. Actually, yeah, brighter. Sorry, excuse me. And then more towards red. Okay, that's probably as close as I can get for now. Okay. All right, so I got the wall. Now let's address him. First, I'm going to do the shadow in his face last. Let's address, the lights in his face last. Let's address his shadow. It's his hair. I believe his hair is too blue. I can just tell by looking at it. It's way too blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by doing the dark shadow. Well, his jacket has a gradation. Let's start with that. See how it's a little bit darker here, brighter here. So let's start with the gradation. So I'm going to go... yeah, that feels pretty good. Yeah, it feels good. I'm going to leave that. I need to see the shadow. So this side, let's drop the value a little bit. Okay, that works a little bit. I think I'm okay. I do need to see all the colors in context before I can make my final decision on that. On this little patch of red here. In fact, let's do that now. It has some context in it, some folds. Now let's take a darker version of that. Actually, let's pick from our background. Let's see if that works. Okay, it's way too dark. Actually, this background should be his hair now, I feel. It's a little too dark. But let me just block in the shape, and what I'll do is use clipping mask. This is the beauty of clipping mask. I use this definitely in Procreate. You can use that. Let's see. Okay, so this is the shape. Now I'm going to make a slightly, it's basically his mask to this shape. I'm going to make this version of it here. And this version slightly, well, let's start with this here. Okay, that works. And yeah, I think I'm okay. in general this is working. I mean, there's the folds are creating a lot of nice subtle nuance there in temperature and things. I don't want to get too caught up in the details. Okay, that's not right. Now let's look at the shadow on his face. These layers are okay. There it is. Shadow on his face. What is this? That's his skin color. Let's look at the shadow on his face and let's see if we can. I'm going to group his lips into that, and this underplane of the chin, and this cast shadow. So this is all in one layer, and that way I can use clipping mask. Let me cut that out a little bit. Little bit of light shape just help me define this area a little bit more. Help it read a little bit more. Let's see. I'm trying to see all the color gradation that's happening here. There's a bit more saturation here, so I'm going to do that. Make a mask. Come in here. I'm going to pick, let's see this, what this color looks like. Okay, it's way too bright. But it doesn't have to be. Just adjust. Okay, so that's working. I like that. It's almost too saturated. Now let's look at his skin. So his skin transitions from a dark orange. Oh, I like that. Into a yellowy warm. So the brightest part of his skin, let's pick the bright highlight, which is right here. I think that'll be a little too bright. Let's start, okay, one down. I actually color picked here. So that's kind of working actually as his highlight. You see that? It's working. So now if we zoom in, I just basically need to transition this edge, these two colors. This edge is created by color and value. So I need to just go a little bit darker, warmer. I'm going to use clipping mask, or I'll use a new layer. And okay, so that's totally wrong. See, I can tell, look how abrupt and ugly that looks. That is not going to fly. So what that tells me is I need to adjust that color. It's too bright. It's too gray. And it's too yellow. It needs to go to red. There you go. Look at that. Now we're cooking. It's almost too. it's a little too. It's too bright now. Now I need to do the highlight, the light color, because this highlight is too. again, too red overall. Okay, that feels pretty good. So drawing wise, it's a hot mess, obviously. The drawing is not reading at all. But temperature wise, we're in the ballpark. You guys see that? How we are close to the arrangement of color and value that's up here. But the drawing is definitely, but the drawing shouldn't be the focus per se. What you want is to spend time analyzing, spend time mixing. You want to be able to, make sure that as you go brighter, you do color the right way. As you go darker, you go the right way. Where's my palette? So I have some nice colors in my palette now. It's roughly the same. One is more saturated in orange. And that little nugget is bothering me now. That has to go. Where is that? That little nugget right here needs to go. There it is. And then slightly okay, so I'm pretty close. Again, lots of detail, and it's missing, but that's okay. We could make the folds look better, and if you have more time, I would definitely encourage you to start considering the drawing. But I think it's best to don't spend too much time on the drawing. In fact, I wouldn't spend any time on the drawing. In fact, if it looks, it doesn't look like what you're trying to do. That's why earlier I was suggesting that it's best to pick a subject where you don't have to draw too much. That way it'll, you won't get bogged down. Like right now, I'm wasting. I should be spending time analyzing color. Right now, I'm wasting time drawing. This is not a drawing exercise. This is a color exercise. So let me just get the last gradation in his hair. His hair has a gradation. Basically, the light side of his hair. Yeah, that feels pretty good right there. You see, as a I can't help myself. I gotta make that drawing better. It's bothering the hell out of me. This drawing looks so awful. Well, it's a painting. It's a painting block-in, and that's really the idea of this. In this way, you can now take this exercise, you can take this palette and make your own illustrations. You can make your own digital paintings, your own monochrome painting. Don't spend time here in the exercise. Spend time on your work. Take what you've learned here and then apply it to your own work. And we're missing these guys right here, but excuse me. I think I'm going to stop for now and break for some questions. I'm sure I'm way over time. Way over time. So let me break here. Excuse me. So I really appreciate you guys joining me live here, or if you're watching on replay. Thank you for all your comments here. Okay, hello Dutch, thank you for your comment. Mr. Artman, hello, thank you. Sarah, hello. Mark, Mr. Merge After Dark, hello, sir. Sounds really good. Thank you, Thomas. House of Flying Daggers. Yes, wonderful movie. Mark asks, I was thinking about buying one of the Laws of Color, but not sure which one. How much crossover is there in material? I thought it was the old oil version to the other traditional media. Well, the demos are in oil, so I really designed it for oil painters, but it can be used for gouache. Gouache is very close to oil. Watercolor, I have free watercolor demos in my YouTube channel, but the traditional oil painting is mostly for oil painting, and I would say the medium that comes close would be gouache. So I hope that answers your question. I don't know, Mark, Mark Tolver, what kind of medium are you using right now? I personally use watercolor, because really what it does is it teaches you this. The first course teaches you how to do monochrome. So Laws of Color 1, my premium course, teaches you monochrome, how to take any color and do just like this, make a palette that looks nice, right? Notice, this has, we only use red, but it feels pretty good. It's working. I mean, we had nice source material to copy from, but it's working. And this is what I learned from guys like Steve Houston and Nathan Fowkes, how to first master one color at a time. So that's Laws of Color 1. And the medium is oil painting. Laws of Color 2 teaches you how to use two colors. And guess Laws of Color 3, which I'm working on now, that'll teach you how to use three colors. So basically, that course is designed to build on top of each other. First you learn monochrome. Next, you learn duochrome, two, so a red and a green, orange and a blue. That's Laws of Color 2. So I hope that answers your question. And in watercolor, all of my watercolor demos, well, actually I have a burnt umber. Oh, I take that back. On my YouTube channel, there's a burnt umber demo. I believe it's public. If it's not, I will make it public soon, or I'll send it to you guys by email. And it shows how to do this. Because in watercolor, the main problem, the blessing and the curse of the watercolor is white, because you have to leave the white of the paper, and white is also luminosity. So that's why my course really isn't a watercolor course, because it's a color course, and colors. It's basically how to adjust the temperature of your color as you go lighter and darker. That's really what it teaches you how to do it. How to do it with style and consistency. But watercolor, as you go brighter, you don't really adjust it. You leave the paper. It's kind of a unique thing, watercolor. But I use watercolor myself. I hope that helps, Mark. Merge After Dark says, this is interesting because I thought it'd be monochrome study with all the same hue, but Chris changed the hue has changed the value. Yes, Mr. Merge of the Dark made the comment of the century. I thought this was monochrome, but he changes the hue. That is monochrome painting. That's correct. That's the whole point of this. That's why you want to watch this video and do this exercise for yourself, is because you can't just move. You can't just make a brighter red by changing the brightness. You have to play with its temperature. You have to play with the hue. You have to play with the saturation. Same with as you go darker, you have to play with the hue. It's kind of what we talked about earlier. As you go brighter, that's the whole bread and butter of this video and what my course and what Steve taught me, right? As you go brighter this way, right? You go into the color wheel. You go here, but you don't just go down. You need to go also, you have to go towards, you have to go either towards yellow or towards blue, basically. If you're at red, you have to go towards yellow or towards blue. What's to the left, to the right of red? So this is where this is what separates. This is, if you can understand this will make your color stand out from the crowd. This is what will make you, will make your color look totally badass. If you can understand this, that when you go brighter, you have to go one way or the other way. Knowing which way, that's the goal, is you have to determine which way, and then as you go darker, then you also have to go one way or the other. So that's the goal. So yeah, merge after dark. Made the right comment. So this is monochrome. Like, this is red. This is red. This is also red, but it's red with a little bit of blue, right? This is red with a little bit of yellow. This is red with this. This is red going this way. Hope that makes sense. Brian Pitt said, yes, you have to change the value, change the temperature, correct. Value change equals form. Mr. Brian Pitt made another great comment. Value change equals form change. Steve Houston says, if you change the value of a color, what you're doing is changing the plane. So this is what Steve taught me. Hey, what happened to YouTube? Steve taught me is that, right, what you're doing is when you change the plane, right, we know the planar model. We know our light source is here, right? Right, as you move the plane, you have to change the value and the temperature. As you move the plane towards the light, you have to move the value. So, this is Impressionism right here, in a nutshell. Impressionism is, they didn't care about drawing. They change plane with color. They, unlike before them, Rembrandt, the Rubens, the Caravaggio, the Dutch masters, they changed plane with value. They made a darker color. They didn't really care too much about color. But Impressionists were like, no, we want colorful everything. So we're gonna, as we turn the corner, we're gonna change the temperature. Hope that makes sense. That's a terrible answer. Chris, can you explain how the hue varies as tone varies? How the chroma varies as the value varies. It depends on the color of the light. And this is a terrible example because this is unnatural. This is a computer. This is photograph altered with a computer. So the colors look unnatural. This is a better example. This is a true color. Here's one. I believe this Terminator's feels. Let's not look at Terminator. Let's look at. Well, let's look at this Terminator. This one's pretty good. So, you see here, so the dominant monochrome, the dominant color, base color is orange here, earthy orange yellow. As it goes brighter, as you change the value, what happens is the color of the light starts to dominate the color. His skin is mostly orangey, right? And he's like a coal mine worker or something, so he's very, very brown and dark. So the skin is starting to pick up the orange of the light. And as it gets darker, what happens is the complement of the light dominates in the shadow, which is in this case blue. So you notice as it gets really dark here, see how blue that looks? It's really not blue out of a tube blue. It's the orange grayed down. It just appears blue because it's around. But that's a huge that's another topic another day. But basically, yeah, as you go brighter, you need to pick up the color of the light. So that's the secret is you decide. Once you decide the color of the light, you have to stick to it and be very consistent. Okay, thank you, Chris. You guys should check the website Movies in Color. Oh, that's a wonderful idea. Watercolor, you work pale to dark. Yeah, you build up the darks in watercolor. Been working watercolor, gouache, digital, but want to start working in oil. Yeah, I love watercolor. I think the main thing about watercolor is that you don't really go brighter. Actually, you kind of have to think. You can't really go brighter in watercolor. It's kind of it's beautiful, but it's also a pain in the butt. So in that case, you have to it's. Well, typically watercolor paper is like this neutral bright white. If you start with a bright white, and bright white is neutral, which is relative to color, especially if you paint skin or landscapes like trees and things. It'll feel cooler and bluer. So if you want a warm light in a watercolor, you just add a thin wash of yellow. That's basically yellow is kind of like the ultimate way to shift your lights towards warm light is by adding a wash of yellow. Nugget now says, how do you know to go left or right? That's the secret. The short answer, Nagano, is step one is to decide your color of your light. So in this case, color of our light was it's a warm yellowy. This is unnatural light. In this example, it's very warm light. In this example of this Terminator, see how blue the highlights and the lights are? So this light is blue. So every time you go brighter, you want to shift towards blue. In this example, if your light's warm. In this example, you do the opposite. As you go brighter, you want to shift your colors towards orange. You can watercolor dark to light, but you have to be careful. Yeah. Merge After Dark says, yeah, I do both. I work back and forth. But you just have to think way ahead, 2 or 3 steps ahead. Oil is best in my opinion, yes. I think you are close, Chris. Thank you. That makes sense. Are you translating into shadow or change temperature depending on diffuse bounce light? Yes, Mark Tolver also made a great comment. Bounce light is a whole other discussion. The environment light. The general thing that I'm describing, that the shadow color is the complement of the light color that occurs in a controlled, neutral environment, basically a studio. Again, what I'm teaching you here is at its core, it's like Steve Houston's color philosophy, and Steve Houston is he's a California painter that paints indoor figures, basically. So we think colorfully like landscape painters, but we control our color like the Rembrandts and the Caravaggios, like indoor painters. So to us, generally, we don't address environment's bounce light. That comes into the realm of of more colors. That would be like an Asaro. Asaro is a California painter who paints figures with crazy color. So he's definitely one of my other favorite artists besides Steve. Brian says, so yeah, the bounce light is a whole other chapter, and I'm going to cover that in my Laws of Color 3. Laws of Color 3 will address colored lights, right? Laws of Color 1 is how to use one color and make how to change the temperature of the color correctly as you go lighter or darker. Laws of Color 2 is how to change the temperature of the light and the shadow correctly. You have to move those things as an orchestra together. And Laws of Color 3 is what happens when you add color lights to your. This is why color is in my mind is one of the most difficult subjects in the entire world, and you'll be studying color your entire life, is because it is so damn complex, right? So if you take, for example, a warm figure, you put him in a neutral gray environment, but you add a green fill light. What do you do? Or if you take let's say you take a blue object like a blue, like an eggplant, a piece of fruit, a blue, like some grapes. You take some purple grapes and you add, put purple grapes on an orange table, but you add red light. What the hell do you do? So that's what the third law of color will be, is how to address colored lights. And that's a whole beast. Breaks, movie screenshots, dark, mid, highlight, color palettes. Yeah, Sarah Jane made a great comment, is that when in doubt, simplify it into value first. That's why I would suggest to those of you who just starting out is to start with these kind of screenshots. In fact, I would look at Hellboy. Hellboy has nice muted colors. See how it's not too colorful versus something like this, like whoa, right? Yet, so this will take a little bit more experience to get these greens right. This one is closer to gray, so you can make a lot of experiments and make a lot of mistakes. So start with these when you're doing your film studies, monochrome, and start with more gray. Another great movie is Children of Men. In fact, do I have it here? I'm going to try to bring up Children of Men. Like this one. See, nice muted, a yellow-green. Children of Men. I believe that's what this movie is called. Comment below if you've seen this movie. It's an excellent movie. It's very sad, though. It's kind of heavy and depressing. See, this is muted blue, right? Gray blue. This would be great to practice with. It's a wonderful color design. Muted yellow. There's not much color, actually, but the design is really nice. Here's you got some muted yellows and greens and browns. This would be a good one to practice. Children of Men is another good example. All right, so I really appreciate you guys joining me live today. Don't forget, I'm going to post these images that I used in this video and my brushes on my website, drawwithchris.com/subscribe, so you can access the resources page and you can download my brushes. So I really appreciate you. I don't have a stream planned, but I am releasing a video. I may do a stream on Friday because I need to do the the two color one soon, but I don't think it'll be at night. I have to move it to morning. It'll be at nighttime, American time. So yeah, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming online, and I'll talk to you soon. So until next time, take care.